Hey there guys, how's it going? It's the 21st of April 2016 today. It's probably about 3:30 in the afternoon. I thought I'd just make another video to talk about something really weird that happened to me back in February 2013, just prior to my MS diagnosis, and it actually helped, well, considerably with my MS diagnosis because it's considered to be like a major symptom. It's called Uhthoff's phenomenon, and I will spell that for you. Uhthoffs, Uhthoff's phenomenon, and I'm not going to spell phenomenon. So anyway, it was February 2013, and I wasn't feeling very well. I was at home, wasn't feeling very well. Decided to retire to the settee, have a bit of a kip. I woke up an hour or so later with a considerable, radical drop in mobility. MS has affected my legs and my walking big time, and whilst that's quite hard to deal with, I do deal with it. I've adapted my life to deal with that. One of the major symptoms I have it's funny actually, I have most of my weakness on my right leg, but most of my pain on my left leg, and weakness. Bit of a strange one. But my right foot is extremely stiff when I'm trying to pivot my foot on my ankle like that. Drop foot, basically, back then. It was really bad. I couldn't even lift my leg up to put my shoes on. You know, unbelievable stuff. Stuff I've been doing all my life. You know, I'm 43 years old, and it's like to be reduced to like not even being able to lift your leg to put your socks on and things like that. You know, it's just crazy. So anyway, woke up on the settee, considerable drop in mobility, existing symptoms much worse. Very scared, really worried, not sure what's going on. I could stand up and get around, but I needed my wife with me to help me, and my mum was around as well, and we just weren't sure what to do. And we weren't sure what was happening, what had happened, because apart from feeling a little bit rough and having to have a bit of a sleep on the settee, I felt okay, you know. So I called my brother, and he'd not long got home. Well, actually, he was still driving back from the coast. He'd had a weekend away, and he came and collected me and took me to A&E. Bless him. A&E staff, doctors were great as always. I've got so much praise for them. They didn't really know what was wrong, and I'd not. As I said, I had not yet got an MS diagnosis, but obviously all the investigation was going on. It was in my record, so they were trying to figure out what was going on with me. I was admitted to hospital. I'm pretty sure I stayed a day, maybe two. During my time there, I spoke to a neurologist, a very clever guy. I'm glad I met him actually. He did an extremely thorough neurological exam of me. He was really thorough. I must have been talking to him quite intensely for about 45 minutes to an hour. He was taking note of all my history, but he really wanted to know dates and when certain symptoms started, when they got better, when new ones started, when they got better, what symptoms persisted, that kind of thing. Now, he also did a very detailed long look. He had a very long look in my eyes, and I distinctly remember that he was looking in my eyes for ages with one of these torch things, you know, and it felt like 10 or 15 minutes. When someone's looking in your eyes with a bright light for about that long, it starts to get a bit uncomfortable after a while. But he was looking at something that was pale in the back of my eyes. Something was pale in the back of my eyes, and it's in my notes, and I think it's related to MS. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I also told him about some new symptoms I'd had recently, which was numbness on the side of my tummy, the right hand side of my tummy. It started. It crept upwards towards my chest and stopped, and then it started on the left hand side of my tummy and crept up to my chest and stopped. So I'd got numbness all on my stomach. Interestingly, in 2007, when I started with all my first symptoms, numbness started on my right foot, crept up my right leg, and then started on my left foot and crept up my left side. Similarly to my stomach, started on the right, then the left. So bizarre. So I was telling him all this, and he told me, well, I already knew this by now, but I'd got a temperature of about 39.8, and I think normal temperature should be about sort of 35-36 degrees Celsius, the human body. And he said he believed I was suffering from Uhthoff's phenomenon. And basically, he described that as worsening of neurological symptoms with when the body gets hot. Or in my case, I'd actually got a virus. I'd got a sickness and diarrhea bug, but it hadn't yet presented itself properly, let's say. When I was at home on the settee, I was just starting to come down with it, but the next day and the day after that, it really sort of kicked in. And I got, with a virus comes like a temperature. You get the shivers and all that sort of thing, don't you? So that's your body increasing in temperature. And Uhthoff's phenomenon usually in people with MS, is a worsening of those neurological symptoms. So that explained my radical drop in mobility. And believe me, going from being able to drive to not being able to drive, not being able to move my feet from the pedals, across the pedals, gas, brake, clutch, that sort of thing, it was pretty scary. So I had a good chat with this neurologist, and he said to me, with all the symptoms I described that I started with in 2007 and increasingly got worse, and then I got better, and then those symptoms reoccurred in 2012, and now I've had newer symptoms with the tummy and things, and combined with the Uhthoff's phenomenon. He was basically trying to prepare me for a diagnosis of MS. He says suspected MS, and it's actually on my notes, I'm pretty sure. But if you remember in my previous video with the MRI scans, they were basically saying, they thought that some of my symptoms was attributed to the disc compression on the nerve, but that had absolutely nothing to do with it. That needed fixing, but it was kind of a red herring with my other neurological symptoms. Okay, so I probably spent another few hours in the hospital. Even though I felt very sick, actually, I kind of made out I was feeling better than I looked, and that to the doctors, because I didn't want to stay in hospital. I was in a ward with some other people, actually, some elderly people, and it wasn't that nice for me, to be honest. So I wanted to go home. So I kind of exaggerated my symptoms. Exaggerated that I was feeling a lot better, and hey, you're going to let me go or what? So they let me go. and I went home. So that's my story of Uhthoff's phenomenon, and I highly recommend, if you're suffering from anything like that, Google it. Because although for me a virus brought on my Uhthoff's phenomenon, actually I've just remembered, when I started taking paracetamol, because paracetamol is very good at bringing your temperature down, but absolutely rubbish at painkiller, if you ask me. When I started taking paracetamol as advised from the hospital, my symptoms improved because they brought my temperature down. Absolutely unbelievable. With every sort of 15-30 minutes that went by after taking the paracetamol, I could feel myself getting better. I could feel my mobility improving. It was unreal, you know, improving to the point of what's normal for me. It's unbelievable. So I just wanted to add that bit, actually. So yeah, I highly recommend you look up Uhthoff's phenomenon if you're suffering with any kind of heat intolerance symptoms. So this thing can come on. Another episode of Uhthoff's phenomenon that I suffered with, I've had it twice, was when I had a bath. A bath can increase your core body temperature. Obviously you're immersed in hot water, warm water, whatever. And it really seriously brought it on for me. It was unbelievable. I got in the bath okay, couldn't get out, couldn't lift my leg, my foot was really stiff and I couldn't rotate, I couldn't dry myself, I couldn't stand, my wife had to help me. It was absolutely crazy. And that was, but I was okay, you know, I was okay, my mobility was what was normal for me before when I got in the bath, but I couldn't get out. It's absolutely crazy. In fact, if you do research Uhthoff's phenomenon, you'll read that MS was quite often diagnosed in the past by getting people to go in the bath and see if their neurological symptoms worsen, and that was a classic MS diagnosis, I believe. So yes, all very interesting. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening to my video and listening to me waffle on. I hope I've managed to say something that you have found interesting. If you have found this video interesting, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up, a like, and if you would like to see any more of the videos I'm doing, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for listening. Cheers.